Hey, what's going on, y'all? How y'all doing? Coming to y'all from my YouTube channel, True Greatness. Definitely subscribe, view, comment, share this video, check out my other videos, share those as well. Let me know what you think. Definitely anyone watching this on Instagram who want to see the full video, definitely check out again my YouTube channel, True Greatness, and just in general, definitely go to my YouTube channel, True Greatness. So I wanted to talk about the NBA bubble. And initially, when I was hearing about the bubble or the potential for the NBA bubble, I was like, kind of going back and forth of like, should they restart the season? Should they not restart the season? And honestly, initially, my thought was just let the season be over. Don't come back. Just restart it all up next year. Okay, we won't have an NBA finals. We won't have the playoffs or anything like that, but you can still give out all the regular season awards at exactly where the season initially paused at, which was like March 10th or 20 something, whatever, somewhere around that time. There was enough season that you could have still legitimately gave out regular season awards even if they didn't come back and finish this season. So that was sort of my thought process. I was like, just let it go. And this is coming from someone who's a really, really big basketball fan. But I was just like, let's scrap it. Let's start it over. Or start fresh. So when I heard that they were going to do the bubble, and that they were going to, go through with it and everything, I was like, okay, we're not going to have no fans, except potentially virtual. Even at that time, I don't even know if they were talking about virtual fans yet. But there definitely obviously wasn't going to be any, fans there live. It was going to be in one location, and the one thing I did agree with though, when they were talking about starting back up, was not bringing every team back. Only teams that legitimately either were already in the playoffs and were going to make it, and this was just basically seeding and seeing where which teams would play which teams in the playoffs, along with maybe some teams that were really close on the outside looking in, but legitimately with some games maybe could get in there. Only bringing those teams back, I was like, okay, that makes sense. And I agree with that if they were going to start it. So obviously, they did all that. And I didn't watch the first couple scrimmage games because I still was like, and then they talked about doing virtual fans. But I was like, as much as I like basketball, these are essentially going to be like, first of all, it's going to be in a practice gym. I didn't really know how the NBA was going to set it up aesthetically and visually to make it almost not feel like that. So I didn't honestly watch the first couple scrimmage games. So the first game I watched was what they called the seeding games. And that was Milwaukee versus Boston, and that was a very, very good game. And once I saw the game and how everything was set up, I was like, I like this. Like, it's just basketball. Like, it doesn't seem any different to me with or without the live fans, because you had the virtual fans. So I quickly got over that. Oh, this is going to look weird. Can I still really watch it? Blah, blah, all that stuff. And thoroughly enjoyed it. And plus, it was a good game, too. So my thoughts on the NBA bubble, before I even get to how the playoffs have been, is, the seeding games for the most part were really good. I mean, you had, like I said, that Milwaukee versus Boston game was good. You had Boston versus Miami was good. The Milwaukee versus Dallas game where Luka had a triple-double, had like 30-something and almost 20 assists and 10 to 12 rebounds or something like that. It was crazy. That was a really good game. So there is and then Portland were pretty much in playoff mode that whole seeding game. And obviously, by the end of it, got into the 8th seed and knocked off Memphis to become the 8th seed. And that playing game with Memphis versus Portland was a really good game. So everything about the bubble has actually turned out way better than I thought it was going to be. And then we get into the playoffs. Man, oh man. So you got one of the best series that I've ever seen in the playoffs with Denver. That's just the first one. Denver and Utah. Talking about history. Alright, this is the first history. For the first time in NBA history, you had two guys drop 50 points in that same game. And that was Jamal Murray and Donovan Mitchell. Not only that, you had two players, these same two players, have multiple 50-point games in the same series. Again, Donovan Mitchell having two 50-pointers, and then Jamal Murray having two 50-pointers in the same series. Denver in that series was down 3-1. That went to, obviously, 7 games. Denver comes back and wins that series. And yes, that Game 7, in many ways, both teams looked exhausted and tired, and it wasn't the cleanest game as far as, like, smooth and crisp and all that. But it still was compelling that Utah almost won on a last-second three by Mike Conley, but obviously didn't. And the rest of the series was just a classic. So then we get to the second round. Toronto and Boston. Boston's up 2-0. Third game, Game 3. It's about, 0.5 seconds or something like that left in the game. Boston's up by 1. Yeah, Boston's up by 1. Kyle Lowry is inbounding the ball. Boston brings in Taco Fall, and that's really the player's name. Kyle Lowry throws you want to talk about a dime, to Anunoby. Literally, like I said, was like 0.5 seconds or something like that left. Catch, and it was like one motion, catch and just shoot, and hits it. Toronto wins it. Now it's 2-1. It went from possibly being 3-0, Toronto being swept, to now 2-1, to the next 3 games. Only one of those games being a blowout, which is Game 5, where Boston blew out Toronto. Other than that, Game 4, Game 6, and Game 7 were all one possession, down to the wire type of games. So just those 2 rounds alone, and those were the series that stuck out. Then you had some funny moments where Portland beats LA in the first game of the first round. And after that, by the way, Charles Barkley is a huge Portland Trailblazers fan. Or at least it seems like it the last couple postseasons. So, Trailblazers win Game 1. Charles Barkley gets out the broom to signify that they're about to sweep the Lakers, which they don't. And they proceed to lose the next 3 games, and obviously the Lakers move on and are now in the Western Conference Finals. But just those things, those moments in a bubble, and who knows, it could be some of these players who are taking those next steps, are in even more of a comfort zone because there isn't the pressure of playing in high intense playoff games, on somebody else's home court to close out series or to come back or whatnot. Who knows? But regardless of whatever the reason, because a lot of these players that have stepped up is Jamal Murray has, in this bubble, has taken this next step, and he's on the uprise. Donovan Mitchell, though, again, yes, Utah blew a 3-1 lead, and, it wasn't like they just collapsed, because Denver had a lot to do with that, in coming back and winning, obviously. But Donovan Mitchell even took a next step. Now, did he have the greatest Game 7? Did Jamal Murray have the greatest Game 7? No. Both of them struggled in that Game 7, but they still have moments in that Game 7 that showed their maturation. And then just throughout the whole series. Like I said, both of them, not one 50-point game, but both of them had multiple 50-point games, 2 of them each, to be exact, in that series. In one of the games, they both had 50 in that game, or 50 plus. So everything about this NBA bubble has turned out way better than I expected. And then even to now in the conference finals, the Heat in Boston game, as last night won Boston won. The Heat are up 2-1 in that series, and I would say it was, you know, probably the least compelling game out of the, you know, in comparison to the first two in this series so far, because the first two were down to the wire, great games. Miami in both games came back from double-digit leads in the third quarter to Bam Adebayo having one of the best blocks in any game. They're up by 2, 116, 114. Jason Tatum drives, makes his move, goes for the dunk, and when I say Bam Adebayo blocked the shot and his hand went like this, it still blocked it. First of all, how the man didn't break anything? How nothing happened as far as, you know, any type of pain whatsoever, and the fact that he was still able to block the shot was insane in and of itself. Then game 2 happened where again Boston's up at the half, you know, by a big score. Jimmy Butler is basically kind of, I don't want to say cruising throughout the game, but he's not as aggressive. And then second half comes around, and first of all, Goran Dragic, was going off. And then Jimmy Buckets, Mr. Clutch, Mr. Fourth Quarter, hit 2 huge shots, huge layup and one, and they go on to win that game in, you know, one possession, closing seconds. And it was crazy because Jason Tatum got a pass where literally he fell first, got up and just threw it up and almost made it. And the Heat, you know, went by, I think it was 1 or 2 in that game too. So not only did you have those compelling series in the first round, and those performances, and then in the second round, and then also Denver and the Clippers. 2 things that were historic about that. First of all, I never seen anybody finish a block with their middle finger with the session of Kawhi Leonard, because that's what happened. Watch the replay. The man finished a block. Not somebody going up for a layup, going up for a dunk. Finished a block with his middle finger. Crazy. Denver is down 3-1 in that. Multiple times they're down in the first half, fourth quarter by double digits, and come back, win those games, come back and win the series. And the only team in NBA history to this point that have been down in multiple series, 3-1, and won those series. So all of this is happening in the NBA bubble. So that's why I said it's a lot that has going on that has been really exciting, that has been historic, that has been far beyond my expectations. So I'm going to say it, I was wrong. I'm glad the NBA came back. You know, I'm glad they finished the season, or finishing the season, you know, while still touching on social justice issues that we cannot forget to continue to fight for, as all people, because, you know, we should always fight for equality for all. But like I said, as you know, my original thought was let the season go. Let's focus on this stuff. It's been far and exceeding beyond expectations I thought it was going to be. So once again, let me know what y'all think of the NBA bubble, playoffs, seeding games, all that stuff. Definitely share, subscribe, comment. Have a blessed one. Thank y'all again. Come to y'all from my YouTube channel, True Greatness. Peace.